Welcome to Coffee with Father James, and you may immediately be thinking, where the heck is he this week? Well, I was downtown Halifax for the Chrism Mass, which is not usually held this time of year because of COVID, and we arranged to do the video shoot down here, and I thought, what a perfect opportunity to experience a bit of the history connected to our parish of Our Lady of Guadalupe. Now, I'm standing at the cathedral, as you can see it behind me. And perhaps some of you know this, some of you do not know this, but this cathedral is 200 years old this year. The cornerstone was laid 200 years ago. It took them 10 years to build it. And after they built it, the small wooden church that they used to have Mass in, they moved out and they moved in to worship there. And a group of Catholics in Dartmouth sent a letter to basically the pastoral council at the time, here at which became St. Mary's Basilica, and asked if they could salvage some of the wood, if they could recycle the old wooden church. And they said yes, and they put the materials on a barge, floated it across the harbor, and used the materials to build St. Peter's Church, which many of you know was the mother church of all Dartmouth. Immaculate Conception Church, St. Paul's were both formed out of St. Peter's. That first building was put up in 1832. It was called St. Peter's because before they built the cathedral, the original wooden church here was called, you guessed it, St. Peter's. And it stood just about over there in that site. That's exactly where the wooden building was. And I want to tell you something about that wooden building because it's very, very important. See, prior to 1784, Catholicism was outlawed. It was illegal in the British Empire. Catholics couldn't hold land, they couldn't vote, they couldn't have a church. And a group of Irish Catholics from here in Halifax made a big deal about it. They went to the government. They were able to repeal these laws that were called the penal laws. And in July of 1784, King George, over in England, repealed the laws. He signed a law that impacted Catholics all over the British Empire, everywhere in the world. It started here in Halifax. And within a couple of weeks, they built this new church that they called St. Peter's right here on this spot. At that time, it was probably the first Catholic church building built in English-speaking Canada. St. Peter's. I know, it's incredible. The history of our church. Now, many of you might say, well, what's that got to do with our church right now, Our Lady of Guadalupe? Well, St. Peter's, the present St. Peter's Church building is the third church building in that location. But in 1832, they laid the foundations and built a wooden church with a lot of the leftover wood that was used from St. Peter's here. In fact, if you go into St. Peter's today, there's a small alcove where you see the statue of our Blessed Mother, and on both sides there are wood carvings. Those wood carvings, they come from the original church in 1784. We have no idea. No one seems to know how old they are. I mean, there's a lot of history packed into this. And I'm telling you this story to drive home the fact that our parish has a lot of history connected to it. And guess what? It's got a lot of history that still hasn't been written. We're called to, in a sense, lay new foundations for going forward into the future, because the Lord is not finished with our parish. And with all this in mind, I want to invite you to come to a series of meetings that we're going to be hosting beginning on the 26th of September right through to December, roughly every 2 weeks. The dates are going to be on the screen. And in these meetings, we're going to be gathering to discuss, to pray, to discern, to reflect, to learn just about where are we right now, and where are we called to go, and what's our dream for the parish, and what kind of resources do we have to work with, both human resources with the gifts and the material resources, and let's create an action plan. That's my hope, that you'll come out to be a part of these meetings. We're going to have one meeting on Saturday morning in person at St. Peter's Church because it's the biggest building, and then we're going to have an online meeting using Zoom on Monday nights. Now, the in-person meeting is going to be limited, so you're going to want to go in and sign up and register for that meeting. Folks, I invite you to pray for this. I think these meetings, these gatherings, are the most important thing we as a parish can do in the coming months. We've got to get this stuff figured out, because just as the generations that came before us had a lot of stuff to figure out, heck, they went to King George. They repealed the laws. That's part of our history. Developments that impacted the Catholic Church all over the world. And guess what? I think we can do it again. The Lord's not finished with us. So that's the kind of big ask that I'm making this week in Coffee with Father James. And besides that, I did promise last week that once we got the office organized and got it in order, we would be putting out a call for volunteers to help with the parish office. So my final comment for today, we're ready to accept your offer to serve in the office. And what we're looking for is people who might be willing to serve for 3 hours a week. Something as simple as answering phones and answering doors. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to know the answer to everyone's questions. You just have to smile and be nice. And there's a lot of wonderful smiling people in our parish. So I hope that you'll give us a call the parish office, leave a message, or send an email to Lydia. Her email address is below here. And we look forward to hearing from you. And thanks so much as we continue to lay new foundations for our parish. God bless.